All right. Call the meeting to order. Jen, take roll, please.
Commissioner Corbin?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Waldner?
Here.
Commissioner Abraham?
Here.
Mayor Lindsay?
Here. You have attached the February 9th minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 9th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Make a motion that we approve the February 16th agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances, acknowledgements, and correspondence, seeing no old business, under new business number 1, review and award bid number 832, Sidewalk Improvement Project 2015-1. Chad, do you want to visit on that?
Yes, I can, thank you. This is the bid for the sidewalk improvement project for the repairs from last year's inspection, and then for the installation of new sidewalk in the areas selected by the sidewalk committee, recommended, I should say, by the sidewalk committee to the commission and approved by the commission. The bids were opened for this work on February 11th at 1:30, and there were 3 bidders that submitted bids for the project. Big L's Contracting, ACS Contracting, and Thorstead Companies. Upon review of the bids and interpretation of them, there was a few irregularities in one of the bids that we looked at, and my interpretation of the bid is that Big L's Contracting is the low bid on schedules 1 and 2 for this, for the bid submitted, and it is my recommendation to award the bid to Big L's Contracting as being the low bidder. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay.
What were the irregularities?
I tried to note them on the bottom, and I can kind of go through those. I just made that first note, bullet point number 1, if you look on page 2 of 3 of the 3-page bid tabulation, that simply just says there was some irregularities. And what our bidding process does allow is that, or excuse me, what it requires is that the bidder fill out the bid form that we have, but then they can also provide a computer substitute bid schedule. And then there's also some guidelines in the instructions to bidders that talks about how that process works. For example, if the bidder uses a computer printed version, they have to have it look identical, basically, to the bid form, but then they'd have to take the total from the computer-generated one, which they would choose on their own, and write that on the bid form, and then that's the form that they actually sign, and they can omit, all the different particular line items. So that is sort of a general process. This bidder did use sort of a hybrid approach. They wrote the unit prices, and then they extended those prices multiplied by the units in the bid form. And there was some slight calculation errors. I think those are easy ones to fix, because it says in the instructions to bidders that those are supposed to be corrected to in the favor of the unit prices. So those were taken care of. But the most significant issue that I'll call it was that it has to do with excise tax. And in the computer-generated form, the bidder, I should say, number 2, ACS Contracting, put in the unit prices and extended those. And it says very clearly, in my opinion, in the instructions to bidders, that any excise tax is supposed to be incorporated into those unit prices. And what happened is, it appears from reading the bid computer-generated form that excise tax was not included in the unit prices. It was added on as a lump sum after the fact. at the rate, I think that is outlined or required by the South Dakota Department of Revenue. And so when you add on that excise tax, as it appears was the intent of that bidder, they're very close bids, I should say, but when you add that on, that actually puts the second low bidder, ACS Contracting, over Big Al's Contracting. And I've talked to both bidders about this, and then I would say it's frustrating for the second bidder, but they would understand. They indicated, of course, they'd prefer to have the bid, of course, but all things considered, I think with my interpretation is I'm comfortable that they would be the second bidder, and Big Al's Contracting would be the low bidder.
Big L is who we had last year, right?
Correct. Well, we didn't bid last year, we bid in 2013, and we extended that contract at the same unit prices for the 2014 work. That's correct.
And have they completed their work in any of the 2 years that they were contracted on time?
They did not complete in that particular calendar year on time.
That's where I was going with this,
They-
Chad, and you knew I
Yep.
was.
And they were carried over, and they were
Yeah.
not. Right.
And I'm not, not so much, excuse me, at or against Big L, because I know that we have some stipulations in there for some, performance issues and things. But part of me is sitting here saying, if they couldn't get the job done last year.
Or the year
with this-
before.
Or the year before, but especially last year with
Yeah.
as great of weather that we had,
Mhm.
we as a city, not Big L, but we as a city need to look at that and say, do we need 2 contractors to do this job? Is this, obviously it's too big for this guy to do it. And I guess, and part of my, somewhat frustration on this is that, we talked about this last year and said we need to make
Mhm.
sure we get somebody to get it done, and then they still didn't. And
Mhm.
so, I guess I'm asking my fellow commissioners, what do we do? Do we get 2 people on it? Can we legally put 2 or do we bid it and hope he does it again with 2 years of history that he can't?
Mhm.
Is there some left over for
Did ACS leave
this
their
year?
bid with the excise tax on the back, or did they try and amend it to take that out and submit the 243,909? Did they say it was an error?
After the fact, after the bids were opened, they did come in and say, well, the excise tax actually was included in their items. That's what they told me. And
So it added the tax on twice, and they didn't catch it?
that's what they'd indicated, that it was in their unit items. But then they had a lump sum summary or addition. They summed up all the item costs, and then they included another line item that says excise tax for this amount. And that was, about $5,000, and that was added on, and then the submitted bid.
So if we scratch that out. and
They
took
are
it,
the low bidder.
They would
That's
be the
correct.
low bidder.
Would they accept that bid?
They said they would, yes.
Can we do that, David?
You can waive that irregularity. You reserve the right to waive irregularities. If they added something twice, you can waive the irregularity by erasing it once
Okay?
and coming up with a new number. I believe that that's well within your discretion of powers under the law. You don't have to, but you can.
Okay.
Now,
I-
is there sidewalk left from Big Al's from last year? And would that be picked up under this new contract, or is that something Big Al's has to come back and finish?
Yeah, that's a good question. He still is under contract to complete this work that is contracted for last year.
For last
The
year,
Extend, the deadline wasn't extended per se, but work was suspended, and then we selected a date when the day count essentially will resume, and then at that day, liquidated damages will accumulate, every single day since then. It will not be under under this contract.
So
for that.
whatever it wasn't finished last year, Big Al's will have to come back and finish.
Right.
And then this will be what
Right.
was bid for this
Right.
year moving forward. Okay.
And
I just
the-
want a clarification.
The only other thing I would say is, I didn't get a chance to respond to a comment or so from Commissioner Waldner. I don't think, I don't think the amount of work requires us to be under two contracts.
Okay.
I think it's an issue of the contractor prioritizing.
Okay.
I think there's,
Big Al's using this as too much fill-in work around bigger jobs, or they're not getting
Who
back here to
knows?
do it.
we can't
Who
say
knows,
definitively,
yeah.
but
Our
One way or the
bottom
other,
line is he's not getting our job
he's not getting
done.
our
I don't
work
care
done.
about his other
Right,
jobs. I care about
exactly.
this job,
right.
and that's, and so then that brings me to my next question then is, because I don't know ACS, I mean, do they have the manpower to do it? Are they a big enough company to do it as well, or?
That's a good question.
Obviously, they bid on it.
Right. What I would say is, we have a process that's outlined where we can check references and things like that on contractors. Them being the second contractor, and this was bid on Wednesday, I didn't pursue, although I did informally ask them for references in case we would need to be looking at them. I haven't formally made that request yet.
Okay.
As references, what kind of time, when have you done jobs like this? When have you done jobs this big? Can you provide me a list and the owner's names and contact information? Because that is very important. I would like to,
Yeah.
talk to their, previous owners. And that's just a routine. We've done that before when another new contractor got a job a couple years ago for us. We did the same thing.
Now, I noticed they do have a Madison address, so they're local? They are
Right.
local?
It's Jeremiah Jordan.
Okay, I didn't know who it was.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, yes. We did, and like I said, we were all keenly aware of the frustrations, if you will, on that we've had with Big Al doing it. The bid documents do have they doubled the liquidated damages for
Yep.
what that's worth in an effort to
We did that a few.
signal, if you will, to the contractors that, hey, you need to prioritize us, because that's oftentimes, in contracts.
But
whatever
it's
your
still only
contractor-
$200 a day, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
In many ways,
It's,
Yeah.
in the contracting business, I guess you'd say it has to be somewhat commensurate with the size of the overall project, and.
We
yeah.
can't tell them it's gonna be $10,000 a day.
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
because
that's
all of a
just
sudden they're
not
not.
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I would think that, if you have a Madison company that is doing sidewalk in Madison and they know that there's been issues with people from outside of Madison before, I would think that they would step up to the plate
You would hope so.
and really aim for having their deadline here, in town, so.
I saw some of the work they did just a block south of me this summer, and it appears they did a good job, but they did a sidewalk and a basement. It's far from the scope that we're
Yeah.
discussing here.
To avoid having to amend or clarify motions later, let me just offer that if anyone is going to make a motion to approve ACS, I'd like the motion to indicate that you are waiving the excise tax irregularity and awarding the bid to ACS as the lowest bidder with the waived irregularities. If that is your intent to do so.
And may I also suggest too, if timing is on we have 30 days to accept the bid. I would say if it was the desire of the commission, I would like to look at some references of them.
Would it be okay to put it off a week, is that what you're saying?
It would,
Yeah.
it would.
Could we table this then, and you can do that?
Right, yeah, that's
or-
what I'm saying, is I think
Okay.
you could.
Okay.
I'll make that motion. I'll make a motion that we table this with, and directing Chad, city engineer, to check references with this company and come back to us with a comfort level.
Would you like us that to table it for a week? Or-
One week.
Will that be enough time, Chad?
It should,
Yeah,
I'll let them know that we want it right away. And that's,
Okay.
that's consistent with our requirements, that if it's asked for, they need to provide those promptly.
Okay.
And so,
Second, it should be.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, approve specifications and set bid date. Bid number 833, transformers, cable, and pad mount switches. And Dennis is on vacation, so Chad, do you want to
Yeah.
take this one?
yes, I can talk about that. This is the material for the 2015 electric upgrade. It includes pad mount, three-phase pad mount transformers, single-phase pad mount transformers, power cable, and then pad mount switches. Basically, it's the material that we'll bid now for the project, and then subsequently we'll have a second bid for the installation
Installation.
contractor for that. Dennis we've coordinated with DGR on this, and Dennis has reviewed these and is comfortable with those. He's out for a week or two, but I made sure we coordinated with him beforehand, and he is, so,
Yeah, he's conferring with that Florida sunshine.
yeah.
Comments, questions?
No, I'm good
Motion.
with it.
Make a motion that we approve specifications and set, is that what we're doing? Setting the bid date for?
March 10th
March 10th
At 2,
at 2 PM.
at 2 PM. Thank you.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You also have attached some personnel adjustments.
I'll make a motion to approve personnel.
second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Announcements and other business. 2014 sales tax statistics. And Jennifer, do you want to address this one?
Just wanted to give you a synopsis of sales tax for calendar year 2014. Did have a packet, it was included in part of your packet. I did give you a hard copy here. That last page was a little bit hard to read. Okay, so if you want to take the hard copy that I just gave you, first section here is as received from the state of South Dakota, posted out on their website, Department of Revenue. Flip with me if you would, please, until the back sheet, back here. Big, long ledger sheet. This is the spreadsheet that I keep on a monthly basis. In the middle there, middle row, you'll see 2014 taxable sales, tax due, sales tax collected, a comparison to that same month a year ago, and then any kind of administrative adjustments that the state charges us. Okay? So the total taxable sales, you'll see, for year 2014 is 174 million. Tax due was 3.3 million. And tax due includes all tax codes. That includes your 2% city, which you'll remember is divided between your general fund and your second cent fund, and also your third penny, your bed and booze tax. So that 3.3 million reflected there is all tax. You'll also see that compared to a year ago, that's up 5.75%. That 5.75% equates to a little over $186,000. So we're about a little over $186,000 more collections this year than last year. Okay? This report here from the state, if you want to flip through this with me quickly, divides the vendors into divisions and into major codes. This is really interesting. If you look through this, I did contact the state to see if we can get who falls into these major groups and divisions, and we can't. That's confidential based on codified law. They won't release that. Okay? But you can see divisions of construction, manufacturing, wholesale trade, retail, very interesting, retail. And if you'll turn to page 807, you'll see a Madison General Recap. That is a recap on the 2% city sales tax. So $3,143,411. is what we collected with the 2% sales tax. You'll see 1.5 of that was specifically collected from retail trade. All right, flip one more sheet here to the final one, page 809. That reflects the bed and booze tax, collection of about $178,000 is all on that bed and booze tax. That is a little bit higher than our 2013 collections, but it is not as much as we budget in that fund. You'll remember that we do a transfer, and it's still not quite enough to cover that fund there, okay? Bottom line there, you'll see a Madison recap of that same $3.3 million, which is reflected on your total on your opposite spreadsheet. Okay, so good news. Bottom line is up about $186,000. I will comment though, these dollars here are on a cash basis. Your city financials are on a accrual basis. So if you were to diligently take this home, put it by your coffee table, and compare it to the numbers I'm gonna present to you in about 3 weeks, they're not gonna be exactly the same. You're always off cash basis versus accrual basis. It's the difference of about 3 sales tax payments. Okay, same number of payments, just where they fall as opposed to cash in the minute. Questions?
And this includes all of 2014, you got the last quarter in.
Correct. Again, this is cash, remembering that I'm doing adjusting entries. I'm still waiting for one sales tax payment even to do those adjusting entries to adjust the books for 2014.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
That's all I got.
Right, because they didn't even have to pay that to the state till the end of January, right?
Correct, correct.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, yeah, they're a month behind. Year end.
Collections versus, right.
Right,
payment.
sales cut off January 31st, that tax is due or January 31st. The state,
Nice and
by the time they
confusing.
get it processed and turn it around,
That's why we're on
It's-
3 sales
yeah.
tax payments behind.
Yep.
All right.
And future questions, come see me.
I would say, you know, keep bringing this to us, Jen.
Can do,
Yes, thank you.
absolutely.
Okay, with that, next thing on the agenda here is an executive session. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I want to hand these out if I could.
Oh, okay. We'll put you on here.
Put our couple years' worth of data together for you folks so you can review. There's a lot of data and information in there. Really appreciate you taking a look at it. That's what we've been up to for the last couple of years, so. And I was right on the 22 hours.
You were?
Yep.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, I just checked again with Rick. It
Seemed
was
longer than that.
5:50. I know, it did seem like a very long day, but it was 5:15 one day to 2:30 the next before we
Okay.
started pumping.
Sounds good.
All right, that's all I have.
All right.
I move that we enter executive session.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are now in executive session.